Good morning, students. This is class 6 English Literature, and the chapter's name is The Ransom of the Red Chief. The Ransom of Red Chief was published in 1910 and it has been written by O. Henry. The story revolves around two kidnappers who struggle greatly to control a boy they abduct. The story is quite ironical and humorous, offering a surprised ending like Henry's other short stories. It is set in the United States of America. Just like the boy in the story, Henry also had a freckled face. Freckled means with pale brown spots. Now I start the story. It looked like a good thing, but wait till I tell you. We were in Alabama, Bill Driscoll and myself, when this kidnapping idea struck us. There was a town down there called Summit. Bill and I had a joint capital of about $600 and we needed just $2,000 more to pull off a fraudulent scheme. Now, the narrator and his friend, Bill Driscoll, they were in the town of Alabama in the United States when they got this idea of kidnapping someone. Why? Because they had a capital of about $600 and they needed $2,000 more to carry out an illegal scheme. And for this, they selected a child of a prominent citizen. We selected for our victim the only child of a prominent citizen named Ebenezer Dorset, who was a respectable mortgage fancier. The kid was a boy of 10 with freckles. Bill and I figured that Ebenezer would melt down for a ransom of $2,000. So, this famous citizen lived in a place called Summit, and he had his only child whom the kidnappers wanted to kidnap. About 2 miles from Summit was a little mountain with a cave. There we stored provisions. One evening we drove in a buggy past old Dorset's house. The kid was in the street throwing rocks at a kitten on the opposite fence. He put up a great fight, but we got him down in the bottom of the buggy and drove away. We took him up to the cave. After dark, I drove the buggy to the little village 3 miles away, where we had hired it, and walked back to the mountain. So the child was kidnapped from the town called Summit, and he was taken to a cave in a mountain which was 2 miles away. And there, the kidnappers had kept all their things. And after kidnapping the boy, he was taken to the cave, and when it started becoming dark, the narrator took the buggy to a village which was 3 miles away to return it because they had hired it to kidnap the boy. And when the narrator returned, what did he see? When I returned, there was a fire burning at the entrance of the cave, and the boy was watching a pot of boiling coffee with two buzzard tail feathers stuck in his red hair. He pointed a stick at me when I came up and said, "Ha! Do you dare to enter the camp of Red Chief, the terror of the plains?" Now the boy had started playing the role of the chief of the Red Indians, and he became the Red Chief, the terror of the plains. "We are playing Red Indians. I am Old Honk, the trapper, Red Chief's captive. By Geronimo, that kid can kick hard," said Bill, rolling up his trousers and examining some bruises on his shins. So, the narrator's friend was there, and he had to play the role of Old Hank the Trapper. And the Red Chief had kicked him very hard, and he was telling the narrator how he got the bruises. Yes, sir, that boy seemed to be having the time of his life. The fun of camping out in a cave had made him forget that he was a captive himself. Now, the boy, instead of feeling afraid, instead of being shocked, the boy was enjoying all the episode. He was enjoying his camping out of his house. The fun of camping out in a cave had made him forget that he was a captive himself. He immediately christened me Snake Eye the Spy and announced that when his braves returned from the war path, I was to be broiled at the stake at the rising of the sun. So, as soon as the narrator entered, the Red Chief told him that he will play the role of Snake Eye the Spy. And as soon as the sun rises, that is the next day, as soon in the morning, as soon as his soldiers return back from the battlefield, they'll tie him around a stake and burn him to death. Then we had supper, and he filled his mouth full of bread and gravy. So, after playing this role, they started having the supper, and in the supper, they were having some gravy and bread, and the boy filled his mouth with bread and gravy. He made a during dinner speech something like this. Now, during the supper, also, this boy went on talking and talking. It all shows that he was so excited. He wasn't shocked or afraid or in any kind of a fear. He was, in fact, enjoying the whole event that he's been taken out of his house. He was getting a feeling that he's camping out of his house, and he was enjoying every moment of it. I like this fine. I never camped out before. I was 9 last birthday. I hate to go to school. Are there any red Indians in these woods? I want some more gravy. Does the trees moving make the wind blow? We had 5 puppies. What makes your nose so red, honk? My father has lots of money. Have you got beds to sleep on in this cave? Now, these were all the plenty of questions he went on asking and asking when he was having the supper. Every few minutes, he would remember that he was a pesky redskin, pick up his stick rifle, and let out a war whoop that made old Honk the Trapper shiver. That boy had Bill terrorized from the start. So every moment, every few minutes, he would remember that he is the Red Chief. That is the chief of the Red Indians. And then he would just jump up and pick up his stick, which he believed to be his rifle, and start howling and screaming as the Red Indians honk when they are on at war with others. That boy had Bill terrorized from the start, and because of this, Bill was feeling very afraid of him. So this is what he used to do. He used to start howling like Red Indians howl when they are attacking someone. Red Chief, said I to the kid, would you like to go home? Oh, what for? Said he. I don't have any fun at home. I like to camp out. You won't take me back home again, Snake Eye, will you? So when the narrator asked him that would you like to go home, he was not at all ready to go home. He said he doesn't have any fun at home and he likes to camp out. Not right away, said I. We'll stay here in the cave a while. All right, said he. That'll be fine. I never had such fun in all my life. Now, in all his life, he didn't have such fun. He was finding all that very adventurous. We went to bed about 11 o'clock. We spread down some white blankets and quilts and put Red Chief between us. We weren't afraid he'll run away. He kept us awake for 3 hours, jumping up and reaching for his rifle and screeching. Now, when the three of them went to sleep, the narrator and his friend knew that the boy will not run away. And for 3 hours, he kept them baking. He would jump up and pick up his stick, his rifle, and then again he would start howling and screaming into their ears. At last, I fell into a troubled sleep and dreamed that I had been kidnapped and chained to a tree by a ferocious pirate with red hair. So at last, the narrator was able to sleep, but the sleep was very disturbed, and he was dreaming that he's been kidnapped by a pirate and he's chained to a tree. Now, pirates are robbers who operate on the sea. Just at daybreak, I was awakened by a series of awful screams from Bill. They weren't yells or howls or shouts, but they were simply indecent, terrifying, humiliating screams. Now, as soon as early dawn, at early morning or the dawn, the narrator was woken up and he heard someone screaming. And when he saw, I jumped up to see what the matter was. Red Chief was sitting on Bill's chest with one hand twined in his hair. I made the kid lie down again, but from that moment Bill's spirit was broken. He laid down on his side of the bed, but he never closed an eye again in sleep, as long as that boy was with us. I dozed off for a while, but along towards sunup I remembered that Red Chief had said I was to be burned at the stake at the rising of the sun. I wasn't nervous or afraid, but I sat up and leaned against a rock. So, at daybreak, that is dawn, the narrator noticed the narrator heard someone screaming, and he got up and he saw that the Red Chief was sitting on Bill's chest, and he was twisting and pulling out his hair. So Bill was screaming. So the narrator pulled the boy out of his chest and made him lie down. But then, and then again, he tried to sleep, but he remembered that what the boy had told him, that early morning, when his soldiers will come, he would be tied uh, around a stake and burned to death. So he got up and he leaned against a rock and started thinking. "What you getting up so soon for, Sam?" asked Bill. Now the narrator's name was Sam. "Me?" said I. "Oh, I got a kind of a pain in my shoulder. I thought sitting up would rest it." "You are a liar," said Bill. "You are afraid. You were to be burned at sunrise, and you are afraid he'd do it. And he would too, if you could find a match. Ain't it awful, Sam? Do you think anybody will pay out money to get a little imp like that back home?" So Bill was suspicious, and Bill said that, "Do you think that anyone would pay a ransom or an amount in return to get back this mischievous child?" "Sure," said I. "A rowdy kid like that is just the kind that parents dote on." The narrator said that parents are fond of their if their children are mischievous, parents are normally fond of them. "But we've got to fix up some plan about the ransom. Tonight we must get a message to his father demanding the $2,000 for his return." Bill and I got paper and pencil and worked on the letter while Red Chief, with a blanket wrapped around him, strutted up and down guarding the mouth of the cave. So as the narrator and his friend were writing the letter demanding the ransom in return for the child, uh, what did the boy do? The Red Chief, he wrapped himself round a blanket and he was just walking or marching up and down the cave, guarding the mouth of the cave. Ebenezer Dorset. "We have your boy concealed in a place far from Summit. It is useless for you or the most skillful detectives to attempt to find him. The only terms on which you can have him restored to you are these. We demand $1,500 in large bills for his return. The money to be left at midnight tonight at the same spot and in the same box as hereinafter described. If you agree to these terms, send your answer in writing by a solitary messenger tonight at 8 o'clock. The messenger will place the answer in a pasteboard box kept at the bottom of the fence post on the road to Poplar Cave and return immediately to Summit. If you attempt any treachery or fail to comply with our demand as stated, you will never see your boy again. If you pay the money as demanded, he will be returned to you safe and well within 3 hours. These terms are final. Two desperate men." So this was the letter they addressed to Ebenezer Dorset, whose child they had kidnapped. I addressed this letter to Dorset and put it in my pocket. As I was about to start, the kid came up to me and said, "Oh, Snake Eye, I want to play the Black Scout." "Mr. Bill will play with you." "What kind of a game is it?" said I. "I'm the Black Scout," said Red Chief, "and I have to ride to the stockade to warn the settlers that the Red Indians are coming. I'm tired of playing Red Indian myself. I want to be the Black Scout." "All right," said I. "It sounds harmless to me. I guess Mr. Bill will help you foil the pesky savages. So now the boy wanted to play the role of Black Scout. He had got fed up by playing the role of Red Chief. Now he wanted to play the role of Scout and wanted to ride on his horse and go to Stockade and warn all the people who had settled there that Red Indians are coming. What am I to do? Asked Bill, looking at the kid suspiciously. Now Bill looked at the boy suspiciously, and he said, "What is he supposed to do?" "You are the horse," said Black Scout. "Get down on your hands and knees. How can I ride to the stockade without a horse?" So the boy made Bill get down on his hands and legs and become the horse. Bill got down on his all fours, and a look came in his eyes like a rabbit's when you catch it in a trap. I walked over to Poplar Cave and sat around the post office. I heard one whiskerando say that Summit was all upset on account of Ebenezer Dorset's boy having been lost or stolen. That was all I wanted to know. I posted my letter surreptitiously and came away. So the narrator posted the letter in a quick and secret way, and he came back. When I got back to the cave, Bill and the boy were not to be found. I explored the vicinity of the cave, but there was no response. When the narrator came back after posting the letter, he saw that Bill and the boy had disappeared. There was no one in the cave, and he looked all around and he could find no one. In about half an hour, I heard the bushes rustle, and Bill wobbled out into the little glade in front of the cave. Behind him was the kid, stepping softly like a scout, with a broad grin on his face. Bill stopped, took off his hat, and wiped his face with a red handkerchief. The kid stopped about 8 feet behind him. "Sam," said Bill, "I suppose you'll think I'm a renegade, but I couldn't help it. The boy is gone. I have sent him home. All is off." Now, Bill said to the narrator when he came from the bushes that he has sent the boy back home. "What's the trouble, Bill?" I asked him. "I was rode," said Bill, "the 90 miles to the stockade, not barring an inch. And then, for an hour, I had to try to explain to him how a road can run both ways and what makes the grass green. I tell you, Sam, a human can only stand so much. I took him by the neck, off his clothes, and dragged him down the mountain. On the way, he kicked my legs black and blue from the knees down, but he's gone home." So Bill started telling the narrator how he got fed up of the boy, and then he took him by the neck of his clothes and he dragged him down the mountain and showed him the way to go home, the road which led to his town, the summit, and how he is to go home. "I'm sorry we lose this ransom, but it was either that or Bill Driscoll to the madhouse." So he said to Sam, or the narrator, that either he would have gone to the madhouse, that is, either he would have become mad, or he would have sent him home. So these were the two alternatives he had. Bill was puffing and blowing, but there was a look of ineffable peace and growing content on his face. "Bill," said I, "there isn't any heart disease in your family, is there?" "No," said Bill, "nothing chronic except malaria and accidents." "Why?" "Then you might turn around," said I, "and have a look behind you." Bill turned and saw the boy, and lost his complexion and sat down plump on the ground and began to pluck aimlessly at grass and little sticks. For an hour I was afraid for his mind, and then I told him that my scheme was to put the whole job through immediately, and that we would get the ransom and be off with it by midnight if Dorset fell in with our proposition. At 8 o'clock I was up in a tree, as well hidden as a tree toad, waiting for the messenger to arrive. Exactly on time, a half-grown boy rode up the road on a bicycle, located the pasteboard box at the foot of the fence post, slipped a folded piece of paper into it and pedaled away again back toward Summit. I waited an hour and then slid down the tree, got the note, slipped along the fence, and was back at the cave in another half an hour. I opened the note and read it to Bill. Two desperate men. Gentlemen, I received your letter today by post. In regard to the ransom you asked for the return of my son, I think you are a little high in your demands. I hereby make you a counter proposition. You bring Johnny home and pay me $250 in cash, and I agree to take him off your hands. You had better come at night, for the neighbors believe he is lost, and I couldn't be responsible for what they would do to anybody they saw bringing him back. Very respectfully, Ebenezer Dorset. So, what did Ebenezer Dorset write? Ebenezer Dorset wrote in the letter that they were demanding too much. And what he said that uh, there was a request he had made that you bring the boy home and pay him $250 in cash, and then only he would take the boy back. All right. Great pirates of Penzance, said I, of all the impudent. But I glanced at Bill and hesitated. He had the most appealing look in his eyes I ever saw on the face of a dumb or a talking brute. Sam, said he, what's $250 after all? We've got the money. One more night of the skid will send me to a bed in Bedlam. Besides, being a thorough gentleman, I think Mr. Dorset is a spendthrift for making us such a liberal offer. You aren't going to let the chance go, are you? Tell you the truth, Bill, said I. This boy has somewhat got on my nerves too. We'll take him home, pay the ransom, and make our getaway. We took him home that night. We got him to go by telling him that his father had bought a pair of moccasins for him. Moccasins are soft leathery shoes originally worn by Native Americans. It was just 12 o'clock when we knocked at Ebenezer's front door, just at the moment when I should have been abstracting the $1,500 from the box under the tree. According to the original proposition, Bill was counting out $250 into Dorset's hand. So they landed up paying $250 to Ebenezer Dorset, whose only child they had kidnapped. So this is the end of the story, and you must have found out how hilarious and ironical it is. It was full of fun. It was such a funny story. This is all for today. Thank you.